Good morning. You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Bruno Edgar. Now, Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel Entebbe, where you can get yourself a relaxing moment. We are getting into the festive season. Christmas is here, and so you'd like a nice place where you can go and have a Christmas lunch, or you can spend 2 weeks at Protea Hotel Entebbe by the shores as we celebrate the birth of Christ. So make your reservations and bookings today, and please know that Issues at Hand is also an opportunity for you, our family members, to talk back to us and give us your views on the discussions that we're having. So you can send us your messages on WhatsApp. That's our WhatsApp number, 0787447684, 0787447684. We want to hear from you, especially on today's topic, which is dealing with drug and substance abuse. Now, my guest for today is returning, and that's Mr. Drileba Dratibi Daniel, who is the founder and director of Restoration International Limited. And now, when you were last here, we were talking about depression, and mental illness, and it's good to have you back to talk about such a critical issue, which is dealing with drug and substance abuse. Welcome back to Issues at Hand.
Thank you, my host. And I want to send regards to all our viewers this morning, the Tuesday, 15th of November 2022. I know we are going towards Christmas, and I want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone out there.
Fantastic. All right, let's go straight towards the matter. What is a drug?
Different people will define a drug in different terms. But in simple terms, I want to bring out a drug is any chemical substance which, when taken, affects anybody in terms of their physiological and psychological functioning. So that you see that somebody, after taking something, this begins to interfere with how they operate, and it affects how the individual's body functions, the mind functions, even the interaction with the community. So basically, that's a drug. Anything that you take that affects and alters your functioning.
And so that can be positively and negatively as well.
Exactly.
And the reason I ask that is because the drugs we take, Fancida, Panadol, those are drugs, and they affect the body positively.
Positively, yes.
They fight ailments that cause sickness in our body. But in this case, we are specifically talking about
we are looking at illicit drugs
that affect the body negatively.
Exactly.
Yes. So thank you for that definition.
Yes.
So now that we've understood the drugs that we are talking about for this specific program, when it comes to drug and substance abuse, what do we mean by that?
Now, this is when we misuse it. This is now the misuse, where we will still talk about the drugs that are supposed to be given to any person, but under regulation for treatment. Those ones are good drugs, but even sometimes people abuse them by taking overdose of it. But then looking at this other side also, we are looking at drugs which are not prescribed by any medical officer, then which is being used in the negative sense. And this will affect everything around the person, beginning from the three aspects of life. 1, the mind. 2, the body. 3, the interaction with the community, the social aspect. So those 3 will definitely bring in issues. That's why I want to at least be able to analyze it and find out where is it coming from, how does it happen, and how can people be helped through this.
So again, it's just that some of these drugs might be used for a positive purpose, like for instance treatment.
Exactly.
But they are misused by particular persons, and they're misused for particular purposes that we shall discuss later. So that's drug and substance abuse. Now, in terms of drug addiction, what is drug addiction, and what are the stages when it comes to drug addiction and substance abuse?
Now, when it comes to addiction, the word addiction is where somebody gets to a place where they get to depend on something. If that thing is not there, they can't survive. Okay, that's why we're saying, hey, look here, let's say no to drugs. Because when we say no to drugs, it will help. Because saying no to drugs means that we look at all aspects. Now, drug addiction has stages. The first stage for anyone who is out there who has ever tested any drug, because I was there myself, also inclusive, because I've been there myself. Anybody who begins with the drugs begins from the first place is experimental stage, where they just want to experiment. How does this thing feel? How does it taste? You just want to experiment. Yeah, that's the first phase, because you will hear people talk about it, and then you're like, but how does this thing really feel? If somebody takes it, how do they feel? You just want to experiment. Where they will say, you just test. You know, that is the first place. Then you test. And then after testing, before you know it, you get to the second stage, which is the regular use. Because you've tested it, and it is okay to you, and then you begin to have a regular use. Now, when you begin to have this regular use, and then it goes to the third stage now, where you get to abuse stage. In the abuse stage, from the regular use, you begin to increase the quantity and the frequency of taking it. And then you begin to abuse it. And then you take it overboard. And then from that stage, the last stage now is the stage of addiction, which is also now called the dependency stage, where you can't do without it. For example, this morning, there are people who have gone to work, but they have gone to work after taking it. Because if they don't take it, or whatever it is, if they don't have it, then life will not move. And that is the worst stage now to be in, because this is the stage where many people have lost their jobs, many people have lost their lives, many people have lost their families, many people have lost things around them. Why? Because people have gotten fed up of that behavior, where now they have gone, I remember you go through the abusive stage. Because when you are now abusing this drug, that means that even your character has issues there also now. And then from there you go to the addiction, where you can't do without it.
Can you give us your personal experience of the different stages that you went through, and what particular drug were you misusing in your past?
In my past, yes. You know, all of us, we've been there. Let me just take this simple aspect of alcohol. Yeah. Alcohol, you begin to take it. After taking it, then before you know it, of course from friends, because we will also see where it is coming from. And then after testing, you begin to have it regularly.
So you were taking it as a result of peer pressure, you wanted to fit in?
Of course, definitely, yes. That's where, when we go to issues of drugs, definitely whoever is in drugs because he or she wanted to fit in, and he or she has been influenced by friends, or he or she has been influenced by the environment, which we're also going to look at later on, and also different other factors that come in. And then you look at it, and then from there, you begin to have it overboard. If you were used to having only 2 bottles, then you go to 5 bottles. If not 5, you go to 8 or 10. And then before you know it, it begins to waste around everything around you. Even your performance at work is affected. Your performance at home is affected. Your performance everywhere is affected. And then if God does not deliver you from this monster, then you will be destined for the grave.
In your own story, when did you, were you aware that, because you said at first it was just hanging out with friends, experiment. Yes. When did you start noticing that? Did you start noticing that shift in terms of drinking more alcohol? And then when did it become addiction in terms of, would you go an hour without taking any alcohol? And how bad did it become eventually?
You know, what happens is, I remember telling these stories to people. When I was teaching in one school in Arua, I remember there is a trading center called Wandi. And in this Wandi trading center, there is a famous place called Alega Lega. And that's where we will kill all of our evenings. And it just began with fellow staff just going and having fun. But then before you know it, things you begin to be regular with your friends regularly. And then before you know it, things just keeps falling apart one at a time. And I remember, by the time I noticed it, it was actually eating me up. That's when some friends, real friends, had to come in and begin to give me some help here and there. That's what I will also be able to share with the viewers tonight. That even when somebody is in addiction, then there are issues that can still be sorted out and they can still be helped.
Okay, and now that we've understood the stages, why do people abuse drugs? What is the cause of this drug abuse? Why is it that there are some people who are geared towards misusing these drugs?
Drugs, people use it for under different circumstances. Number one, in families where it is there, and it is abused, definitely it will happen. That's why I normally tell my people that nobody knows the father of a dog, unless if the dogs have been caged. Then you will know that, this could be the father. But in our settings where dogs just roam around, nobody knows the father of a dog, but we always know the mother. But in this case, still when a puppy is born, a puppy learns to sit from the mother. Yeah. And you see that there are things that we inherit. So some people are in drugs because they have inherited that habit from their forefathers, from the family. So definitely, if you check with the people who are right now deep into addictions, they will tell you, in their family, it has been the order of the day. They have been drinking, or they have been smoking, or they have been eating marungi, or they were taking whatever drug that they have been using. They have seen it, and that's where, because whatever you see, you must do it. And I always say this also, in most cases, children don't do what parents tell them to do. Children do what the parents do. So those are also areas that we need to look at. So it comes from inherited issues, heredity. Number two, occupation. There are people where they are working from. It is the order of the day, whether they like it or yes, because of their occupation, they must be able to take some of these drugs. And before you know it, it can actually become an addictive thing, and it can actually destroy everything around you. Number three, broken homes. People who are coming from broken families, from broken homes, definitely they will have nothing to hold it to apart from using drugs as an escape route, thinking that they must still be able to live and survive and all that. So they will still be able to have as an escape route, especially people who are coming from broken homes and broken families.
By broken homes and broken families, you mean, what do you mean by that?
Where, for example, the father and the mother choose to disagree, to live together, so that means they have separated, either through mere separation or through divorce. So the children who are left there have nothing to hang on. So definitely they will be able to be forced to use some of these avenues as a way of now survival. And then also, majority of us now who have begun drugs, especially in high school and campus, and even after campus, it is because of broken hearts. That's why, if you read this book cover of mine, it is Overcome Rejection. And this rejection, anybody who feels rejected, definitely they will have where to kill that kind of heavy stress. So in most cases, others then end up taking the wrong path towards drugs instead of seeking for help. That's why most people now in a campus and even out of campus who are abusing drugs, most of them and most of us were coming from that place. I told you last time that I had to go through 8 heartbreaks. It is not a joke. And by the way, some of those heartbreaks triggered some of those behaviors of mine, because literally I am born in church, raised in a church, grew up in a church. Okay? But when some of these issues came, even my parents are not aware. And I'm even sure my father will even get to know that I was once on the drugs today, after watching this program. And many parents actually don't know that their children are actually on the drugs, because we don't even have time for them to find out what's going on.
So you were particularly one of the drugs you struggled with was alcohol.
Yes.
In terms of your addiction.
Yes.
So would you say that it became even worse after you suffered those heartbreaks?
Yes. And then also the other issue is trauma. When people go through trauma and they don't manage that trauma well, that trauma can lead them into drugs. And then they will also graduate through all those various stages, from experimentation to regular use to abuse stage and to addiction. And then also ignorance. Some people take it ignorantly. They don't know. So because they've seen others taking, let me also take. And then also curiosity. How does it feel? Like I was telling you, when this CT5 gene, the latest alcohol that was manufactured in Arua, hit the market, people began dying of this CT5 gene. So one boy said he's not sure. He wants to first prove if it is true. He took 5 bottles, and he never passed that day. He's buried. Out of curiosity, he wanted to. Is it true? How does it feel? What is there? What is in it? So those are some of the reasons why people actually end up there. But I'm calling upon everyone out there saying, please say no to drugs under whatever circumstance. We've been there, we know, and it's not helpful. It is only destructive. It will only destroy your life. Please get rid of it. Don't you ever try to think about drugs, because it's not good enough for any one of us.
Oh, definitely. And you mentioned one of the drugs you struggled with was alcohol.
Yeah.
One, what are some of the most commonly misused or abused drugs, especially in our community? And two, what apart from alcohol, what particular other drugs did you struggle with?
For me, particularly, it was only alcohol that I struggled with, but I was able to be helped and get out of it. But then also there are other drugs as well. One of it is marungi. Marungi is a drug that people actually don't understand, but it is actually a huge drug, and it has actually destroyed so many lives. There's, of course, tobacco. There is marijuana. You can see the marungi is right here. And imagine that's your boyfriend, and then he's smiling for you. I don't know how the women out there will feel, And you have these other drugs as well. You have the tobacco, you have the shisha. People are now enjoying this thing in the name of enjoying, but actually when they're actually killing themselves. And you have cocaine, you have, I've talked about opium, there is marijuana, there is cocaine, there is alcohol, of course. All of these are some of the basic examples of the mainly abused drugs. And actually, right now in West Nile, there is a latest version people have just introduced, and they have been taking the dry scales of snakes.
How so?
When a snake kind of gets off
Sheds its skin.
Yeah, and then that dry skin is what they gather and smoke. And I was asking some of them and asking them, really, what does it help? Said it is even worse than cocaine. I'm like, okay, I didn't know this, And even petrol. I think that's why the price of petrol has actually gone high. I'm suspecting, because even humans have begun competing with the cars in taking petrol, in sniffing petrol, so that they can be really, really, really high. And those are some of the examples of the commonly abused drugs.
And how do people get in contact with such drugs? I know, for instance, when it comes to marijuana, that's cannabis. It's illegal, especially when it comes to its use. It's illegal in Uganda. So how do people, and even things like cocaine, how do people, and where do they find such drugs, the likes of cocaine?
Of course.
Especially in school. And because I remember even in my days in campus, people used to get these drugs. And you wonder, how would they get them?
One thing is people get these drugs through friends, because these are issues that happen with the friends. Of course, it's friends who will definitely bring you in. And friends will always, even the boys, like there are 17 boys in one primary school who were on cocaine. I've never seen cocaine myself. So these are P7 pupils this year. So these pupils, I was called to go and engage them, and I was talking to them and asking them, so where did you get it from? I said, from friends. Then I'm like, wow. So how did these friends, as little as they are, how did I get this? You can start friendships can actually kill you, or they can help you grow. In this particular case, you see that friends bring these things in. Number two, some of these drugs, especially the marijuana, the marungi and all that, if you walk all the corners of this country, Uganda, you will find plantations of these drugs. So there are places where these drugs are actually cultivated. You know, that's why come to West Nile, you will find all these drugs. The marijuana is there, being planted in gardens. That's why if you check the reports of police, you will hear those stories where the police go and uproot those drugs from those plantations, and then they arrest those people who have been planting it. But still, it is there. Others bring it from other countries. Of course, they just smuggle it in. And looking at West Nile as a region, for instance, West Nile borders Southern Sudan and the DRC Congo. So you can imagine that this kind of trade of those kind of drugs can actually be high because of the porous borders. But then once it lands, say, in Uganda, then it is easier to reach even here, even other parts as well. So that is how some of these drugs move and how they are easily accessed. And then also some of these are brewed from homes. Say alcohol. If you go to other homes, they will tell you that for them they don't take the Nile lager, they take cassava pilsner, the one which is made of cassava, cassava pilsner. So they give it different names: lira lira, moyo moyo, you know, tamia. They give different names, but that's the local waraji, you know. So some of these are actually manufactured in our homes and in our communities. And then, of course, there are these ones which are coming from direct from the source of the Nile. So, basically, these drugs are actually everywhere.
So, on that note, could you say, and we shall get into some of the dangers later, but when it comes to enforcement by our agencies, whether at the border or even police, is there a laxity when it comes to ensuring that some of these drugs, especially the ones that are smuggled in, do not find their way into this country? And also, when it comes to communities, are we both as police but also as community members lax in fighting this vice of drug and substance abuse? Because like you said, in many areas you find people are growing weed and people know it, or people are brewing alcohol, especially the kind that is dangerous to the lives of young people and children as well. So what have you seen? Is there laxity, and how can that be worked upon, especially by us members of the community and family members?
Yeah, actually what happens is, for me, when I saw that West Nile is actually leading in drug and substance abuse, what so far I realized was it is across board. Because I've gone to communities where even the LC1 chairman has his plantation of marungi, or the LC1 chairman is even involved in the trade of marijuana. And you realize that the community has been in that kind of state for long. So, but right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do community dialogues, where we go to the communities, we involve the LCs, we involve the police, we involve the community members and opinion leaders and the politicians, and then we sit down with them and discover how much damage these drugs have actually caused us as people of West Nile, and even across board. And then from there, and then we say, okay, what do we think needs to be done? Actually, some communities have actually come up with the resolutions that for them, they don't want to see some of these drugs in their communities. Because every day you come to Arua, you go to Koboko, you go to Yumbe, you go to any town of West Nile. If you spend a week there, you will be able to meet a new face of a mentally ill person per day. And the cause is drugs and substance abuse. So, and then when people have realized this, they are now saying, okay, I think let's do something. Let's engage communities. Let's be able to fight this monster, because it begins with dialoguing, talking about these issues. Because, well, people who used to take this, they had their reasons why they were taking it. They didn't see the health hazards. But now that we are seeing the damage which has been caused by this drug, so we are re-engaging the community, we are re-engaging the church leaders, we are re-engaging the different communities to be able to advocate for people to get rid of drugs, because it is consuming people. And actually, some churches have even personally engaged me to go and talk about drug and substance abuse to their members. And I go and explain, share my story, and share how things can actually be managed and how people can actually get out of this. Even just this weekend, I was in Arua. We had the Focus conference of, I'm sure you know Focus, Fellowship of CUs. The 10 higher students of learning, the Muni University, Muni NTC, the School of Nursing within Arua, the PTCs within Arua, the technical schools gathered their students, and then I was still talking the same issue of drug addiction and how to break it, because it is a common thing now in schools. It is a huge thing in universities. It is a huge thing in the primary schools as well. So we are trying to engage at all fronts and helping people to understand the impact of these drugs. First of all, on our health, mentally, and 2, on our society. So many families have broken because of this. So many mothers and fathers have committed suicide because of drugs, because they reach a place where they can't do without, and then if they can't afford it, nothing moves. You go to many communities because people need to afford these drugs, because these drugs are also very expensive. So what does that mean? People go in theft. They go stealing. Theft cases actually have risen. Why? Because many young people and even old ones go stealing so that they can actually raise money to be able to afford these drugs. And a lot of chaos which is happening. So, but we are trying to advocate and say, you know what, we can actually, it may not be a quick thing, but it's a process. Within 3 months, somebody who has been heavily involved in the drugs can actually live a free life if they are committed. Even just within a month, they can actually make that commitment. I even know of a guy who made a commitment just within 1 day, after realizing how much he had actually spent for his over 10 years on these drugs. How much he had spent on it, and then how the family had broken, how he became so broke and poor, yet he is working so hard, but all his expenditures are on drugs. I'm sure you saw some funny clip. Of course, I call it funny because somebody drew a budget of a show that just took place here in Kampala over the weekend. They put entry for the show. They put the amount, of course, and then drinks, 300,000. Transport for the event, they put, of course, it was 5,000. And then upkeep at home was 3,000. I'm sure if you saw that social media thing. And of course, it appeared a joke, but it is actually a reality. How many people are spending on drugs heavily, but they don't spend at home? It's huge. How many people are going hungry at home at the expense of drugs? Because I must take this drug, and I must buy this at this quantity. But at home, there's no food. At home, there's no rent. At home, children are not in school. How many parents have, in a year, taken over 2 million on alcohol and other drugs, but school fees is even less than 2 million, but they have failed to pay this year? There are many. So, in fact, in one of our community dialogues, one teacher opened up and said, when we were trying to ask him, okay, how much do you spend on alcohol per day? He said 5,000 minimum. I said, okay, in a month, that is 150. In a year, that's 1.8. That is basic. That is without big days, the festive seasons, and that's also without going with the friends and then saying a round table. So you can see bare minimum of 1.8 is on on alcohol. But then school fees for the term is for the year is 1.5, and the one because 500 per term, for example. But then you realize that somebody doesn't have the 1.5 for school fees for the child, but has the 1.8 in a year for the alcohol that he has become addicted to, that he can't do without. So when we dialogued this, and then he was like, wait a minute, I think I was living in total ignorance. Enough is enough. I'm out of this deal. Right now, the things have changed around him. So it takes community dialogues, and it also gets engagement, and then finding out, because some people didn't know even how they got in there, and then getting out also has become so hard. But we are trying to say out here that please, it is possible. You can still get out of that mess. You can still get out of addiction. You can still get out of those drugs and live fruitful and productive lives.
That's true. And from what I'm hearing, you mentioned one of the things that pertains to the reasons why people abuse these drugs is because of hereditary nature and culture. This is something that's going on in many of our cultures and many homes. It's okay to drink alcohol, and it's okay to spend
to
your
smoke
on to smoke and to take drugs.
Eat marungi.
I remember in many of the weddings that you attend, you will find that there are people who want to contribute, and they are very ready to contribute to many to alcohol, and they are ready to contribute many crates, but yet they can't even contribute to the
plate of food,
to a plate of food, or even things like the gown for the bride. So
even for the venue,
about priority.
Even
for the venue, but they are very ready. They send the money immediately, and
they will tell you how many crates is for the alcohol, and they want all kind of alcohol varieties,
And that's why you see that it has to start with a cultural shift.
There
needs to be a shift in our culture where it is not okay to continue to abuse these substances, because it affects many families, like you said, where people care more about having money for alcohol than paying school fees for their children, and that in effect that affects our future generation, especially as a family, as a community, and as a country. And now, Mr. Daniel, we are going to go through the effects of drug and substance abuse.
It is interesting. Like there's a time I was like I told you, I was born in church, grew up in church, and I've had an encounter with the one verse, and this is going to summarize for us the effects of drug and substance abuse. Proverbs 23. Proverbs 23 from verses 29. This is what the Bible quotes. Who has war? Who has a sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has a complaints? Who has wounds without a cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who linger long at the wine, those who go in search of mixed wine. Do not look at the wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly, and at the last it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. Yes, you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, or like one who lies at the top of the mast, saying, they have struck me, but I was not hurt. They have beaten me, but I did not feel it. When shall I wake up that I may have another drink? One time when I read this, it really hit me so hard. It hit me so hard, and I was like, wow, wait a minute. Let me give you another one. Isaiah 5. Isaiah 5:11. Woe to those who rise early in the morning, that they may follow intoxicating drink, who continue until night, till wine inflames them. The harp and the string, the tambourine and the flute and the wine are in their feasts, but do not regard the work of the Lord, nor consider the operation of his hands. Therefore, my people have gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge. Their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, Sheol has enlarged itself, Sheol is the same as grave. And opened its mouth beyond measure, their glory and their multitude and their pomp. And he who is jubilant shall descend into it. Looking at the effects which is here, one is clear. We see that from the body, soul, and spirit, things go out of hand when it comes to drug abuse. Body-wise, so many people actually have ulcers, stomach ulcers. People have issues with their feet, swollen arms, swollen stomach, impotence, infertility in both male and women, weight loss, hypertension, malnutrition. All of these affect the body directly. Check those who have been fully into drugs. Things are falling apart. Because at the end of the day, things are not moving the way they are supposed to move. That is on the body. Even a death. Because we've seen so many people who have actually died as a result of these drugs. Coming to the mind, people end up with mental illnesses. People end up with nervousness, anxiety, depression, and all that. When it comes to the social life, broken homes, many homes have been broken. Poverty has hit those families and those individuals as well. There is a child abuse, accidents, these rampant accidents that have been here. In October, the police reported 258 cases of road accidents. Huge number. And most of these were coming because the people were actually on the drugs. I can say this. Just check around evenings. How many border men do we find chewing or having drugs as they're riding in the evenings? How many drivers are actually intoxicated while driving? Sorry to say, we lost a huge person on Kampala Entebbe Expressway, this express. And what was found in his car? Some leftovers of booze. That means he was actually overspeeding. So accidents have actually claimed so many people. So many people have lost jobs as a result of their addiction to alcohol and these drugs. Many people have actually lost jobs. Many people have lost respect in the communities. Because if a big man ends up overtaking these drugs and then they become a public nuisance, they have lost, people have lost respect. Even suicide ideas. Many people have actually committed suicide as a result. Bring it to now school in the academic environment. Because there are those who could be watching me and their students, or maybe in a campus or high school. There is even a poor concentration, impairment in intelligence, memory problems, impaired attention, absenteeism, because you will always want to be absent from class so that you can go and have your drug. By the time you realize that actually you're always absent. Problems with the personal studies, theft cases actually rampant. That's why you go to Makerere and leave anything, or go to any university and leave your stuff there, it will be gone. Theft, destruction of property, engaging in sexual activities, which has also become a risk. That's why HIV prevalence has also gone very high again. Because once somebody is intoxicated, they don't think right. Increase the rate of dropping out of school. So many people have actually dropped out of school. So all these are the problems. And look at the problems that we have just quoted here. The grave has opened its mouth. We have buried so many people as a result of drug abuse. We've lost so many issues. So many people have actually lost a lot of stuff because of this. But why am I here today? We are saying that still, in as much as many people have actually died and many people have lost jobs, many people have developed different complications with life as a result of drug and substance abuse and addiction, hope is still available.
Hope is available. So how does that hope materialize? How can we best prevent people from being trapped or ensnared by the chains of drug abuse?
What I want to say is this. From my own experience, I want to always say this. You can't do what you don't know. You will always do what you know. A problem you don't know, you can't solve it. So it is until you understand your problem. It is until you do your self-analysis and real audit on your life. Find out Why am I in this condition? What has brought me here? It is until you understand that, so that you are able to address the real underlying issues, the real underlying problems. Is it issues that are coming from your personal bad characters? Is it coming from your environment? Is it coming from whatever source? If you understand the cause, the real cause of these issues, then you'll be able to deal with it. And it is until, because some people are actually doing that, but they don't know that actually they're actually trying to still deal with unresolved traumatic experiences from their childhood. So if it is coming from a traumatic experience, if it is coming from a place where you felt abandoned and rejected, if it is coming from a place where you just found yourself with your friends and then things were happening in whatever form, then you can still be able to work it out. And then you say, you know what, I think let me deal with this real issue. Because for me, that is what I did. I had to deal with the real issues I was struggling with. What was my struggle? My struggle was, number one, was the feeling of abandonment, the rejection I received while growing up, right from birth. I told you 80 heartbreaks, rejection from school, rejection everywhere you go, like MTN. You get overwhelmed. For me, that was the thing. So I had to deal with it. That's why I had to come with this book, Overcome Rejection and Turn Your Dreams into Reality. If it is coming from whatever issue, first of all, deal with what is the background of this. That will really help you big times. Because that's when you will address the real issue. Because if you try to address the issue by just cutting the stem of a eucalyptus tree, I assure you, you may cut one stem, which is okay, but at the end of the day, when it rains, after a few months, that stem will sprout, and even over 10 will sprout from that one stem that you cut. The real issue, the real way of helping with this is uprooting the eucalyptus tree, digging, so that you're able to deal with the root issues, And in this case, you're not dealing with the fibrous root. It is the tap root. So the tap root is what you need to deal with. And then once you deal with that, then you can be able to look at the rest of that I'm going to say. Number 2, seek for help. Help is available. Seek for help. Seek for counseling. There are people who have walked these journeys. Men, not only me alone. There are so many people here in this country who have walked this journey as well. And they can actually be of help. They can now be able to show you, okay, this is where I stepped. Pass here. You can still be able to walk. Because we've walked these roads before. So we can be able to hold your hand as we walk along. Number 3, get support groups. These support groups will be able to help you to be able to move. There are so many support groups. And these support groups will actually help you overcome it very quickly. And then also these support groups can be found in our workplaces. These can also be found in our places of worship. Don't be in isolation, be in fellowship. Be in fellowship. And then choose to take control over your life. Many times when we are in this kind of scenarios, we attribute our issues to our family members. My mother is the cause. My father is the cause. So and so is behind this. But it is until I realize that actually it is not about them. It is about me. Okay? It's about me. It's not about them. So when you continue to attribute blame, pointing fingers to people, you'll not be helped. You're just believing in denial. Get to yourself and say, you know what? Okay, enough is enough. It's about my life. What do I want? What kind of life do I want? Is it this life, or I need to live a better life? So that it becomes personal. And also take advantage of activities and events that do not involve some of these drugs. That's why I don't attend some functions. Some get-togethers, I don't attend them. Because I know, even right from the onset planning, like you were saying, you will hear that there is busy reunion. And then say, okay, so what is the budget? Booze is number 1 on the agenda. I don't go there. I don't show up. Because your environment dictates what you do. Sometimes it's okay, for me I will not take, but I will take a soda. And then you go for short call, somebody pours alcohol in your soda. What will you do? You will have taken it. Before you know it, you are intoxicated. And that is how some of us even got into there. Because, I am a church man. Okay, for you, you take soda, but come with us. We'll take soda. And the soda is poured in a glass. Everybody is poured their they are drinking in the glass. So you go for short call, you come back. They've punched it. By the end of the soda, your eyes are beginning to see strange things. Before you know it, you are intoxicated. So avoid such places. Avoid that kind of groups. Because you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. If there are people who are addicted to any of these drugs, I assure you, whether I like it or yes, you will take it. Because even I know, even in our school days, I'm sure even you escorted your friends to the toilet. They come to you, you are very busy in the library studying. Say, man, come on, they escort me to the toilet. Because they are your friend, what will you do? You escort them. Because association brings participation. So mind those who are around you, because they will always want to get you there. And abstain from these drugs. It may be hard, but it's possible. Because I've been there, I know. And when I made that bold decision that, you know what, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Not just for the sake of my parents, but for my own sake. It's not about my parents. It's not about my family. It's about me. What kind of life do I want? Because if we continue saying, my family, I am doing this for the sake of my family, it won't help. Because you'll deny yourself so many things. But let it be your own initiative to say, you know what? Enough is enough. Let me get out of this. What am I saying? Help is available. Always. It begins with you. Define and discover who are you. You know, there was a time I was talking with somebody, and then somebody quoted me this scripture. Said, no. Even it is in the Bible. They said that you give alcohol to those who are perishing, who are useless, who are broke, who are poor. Let them drink and forget their poverty and their unhappiness. Then I asked myself, okay, do you want to be among the poor? First of all, let's get that verse in context. This was the mother advising Lemuel, who was a king. Say, hey man, you don't need to drink because it will affect your judgment. It will affect everything around you. Don't take this. Give it to those ones. But then why would you want to relegate yourself to be among the poor? Why would you want to relegate yourself to be among the suffering? Is that the place that you really want? Is that the place where God wanted you to be in? So for me, that is where the issue is. Begins with you. You can actually make up your mind and say, you know what? Yes, I could have been on these drugs for all these years, and it has affected everything around me. It has costed me my job. It has costed me my family. It has costed me my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend. It has costed my husband. It has costed everything around me, even my money. But still, I can actually begin afresh. You can begin life afresh. You can bounce back afresh, and you can actually bounce back big.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drileba Dratibi Daniel, for taking us through that and helping us understand how to deal with drug and substance abuse. And thank you for joining us on Issues at Hand this morning. And just know that you can get help. There is help. Please seek help and know that there is always a second chance, like he has said. But something important for us parents is that we need to practice positive parenthood. We need to be there in the lives of our children, understand what they are going through, be present to walk the journey with them so that they do not go astray. Thank you for joining us once again on Issues at Hand. We'll return tomorrow. For now, it's time for a coffee break.